I go to Zula. I see some people in the chat. I saw somebody put it up, so I guess I'll say that first. I'm currently a rising senior, and I'm going to introduce our panel. So, I'm from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I was born and raised there. I go to school in New Orleans. I'm a biology major. So if anybody out there is in health sciences or anything like that, you can definitely find like a place in asset management for sure. I currently intern at Income and Research Management. I'm in the business tech department. So I'm a tech intern. And I've loved Boston. I've, had a really positive experience with everyone here. UNCF and everybody here has been really nice. And so I can't wait to kick off, meeting our panelists and, letting you ask your questions. I'll answer some questions, they will. And I hope you guys enjoy it. This is for you. So that's kind of all I have to say about that.
Thank you, Olivia. Thank you so much. And I'll go ahead and do a small introduction to our speakers, and then Olivia, I'll let you take it away. So next slide, please. We also have Tim Codrington, who is a managing director of research in the equity division at Fidelity Investments. And Fidelity Investments is a leading provider of investment management, retirement planning, portfolio guidance, brokerage, benefits, outsourcing, and other financial products and services to institutions, financial intermediaries, and individuals. In his role, Mr. Codrington oversees Fidelity's research analysts and portfolio managers for the consumer team. He also shares responsibility for managing equity research associates and the undergraduate and MBA campus recruiting and training programs. This is the guy you want to know. He also co-manages the Fidelity Enduring Opportunities Fund, Fidelity Disruptive Automation Fund, Fidelity Disruptive Communications Fund, the Fidelity Disruptive Finance Fund, the Fidelity Disruptive Medicine Fund, Disruptive Technology Fund, and the Disruptors Fund. So prior to joining Fidelity, Mr. Codrington, was a partner and portfolio manager at Copper Rock Capital Partners and portfolio manager at AGF Management Limited, and a portfolio manager and research analyst at Putnam Investments. His prior role has been focused in roles have been focused in the consumer sector, and he has been responsible for portfolio construction, risk analysis, and security selection throughout his career. He has been in the finance industry since 1995. Mr. Codrington earned his Bachelor's of Arts degree in government from Harvard University and his Master's of Business Administration degree from Harvard Business School. Wow, he has quite a resume for sure. Can we go to the next slide, please? Perfect. We have the wonderful Mr. Justin Bullion, is a manager director at the institutional bond manager Pandel and Rigel, having previously worked for Wellington Management, Morgan Stanley, and BlackRock. His passion for racial justice and healing began from his time at Evanston, Illinois Magnet School, named for Martin Luther King, or MLK, and has continued through his work with UNCF and other efforts such as Boston Metco Program and St. Francis House. Justin and his wife Ann live in Wellesley, Massachusetts, and have 3 grown and growing kids, and of course their 2 wonderful dogs. And we also have Miss Cynthia Roberts, who attended Columbia University School of Engineering and Applied Sciences, where she graduated in 2016 with a Bachelor's of Science in Industrial Engineering and Operations Research. Let me slow down. She began her career as an equity research junior associate at Morgan Stanley, where she worked on the specialty retail and department store team. Most recently, Cynthia worked as an equity research associate at Adage Capital Management, covering the consumer sector. Cynthia currently attends Harvard Business School as a part of the class of 2023. Congratulations. All right, everybody, with all of this said, I am going to hand it back off to Miss Olivia, and she'll begin our panel discussion.
Okay, thank you so much for that. So we're going to get started, and it doesn't matter which order you guys go in. Could you tell us about your role and what you love about your role at your respective firms?
Well, Tim, we ran out of time after Tim's bio, so I'll just get started. I work for a bond firm. It's actually based in Los Angeles, and we have a couple other offices. One including in Boston, in the financial district, which is pretty much downtown where a lot of us work. Um, our clients are usually institutions, and what I mean by that is large pension plans. So this might be the City of Baton Rouge pension. Um, it might be the Zula Endowment, and it could be a foundation, the Rockefeller Foundation. Not Cynthia's, Justin's, Olivia's, Tim's money individually, but really these larger institutions. I enjoy that because I know if I had myself as a client, it would be an awful situation because I would ask a million questions and it's very personal. So when you have institutional clients, which is what we do, it makes the conversations a little bit higher up and a little less personal, and I love that part about my role, working with these institutions and these clients, talking to them about inflation, talking to them about Russia and Ukraine. The reason I love being in the bond world, which is what our firm does, we buy bonds on behalf of these institutions, is because I find it so globally relevant. So it's just interesting when I read about things in the paper, I can kind of apply it to my day job and the conversations that I have with these institutions. I further like, sort of a smaller company, and I'm enjoying that a lot too. It's a bit different for me versus my last couple companies. So I'll stop there and pass it on.
I can jump in next. Thanks, Justin. So what do I like about my job? I currently work with young men and women, young investors, trying to help them become better analysts and portfolio managers. I love that because it's basically how I grew up in this industry, with strong mentors helping me to understand how to pick stocks, how to find alpha, and how to generate positive returns for my shareholders. As a manager of people, and I'm sure Justin can tell you this, and maybe Cynthia as well, it keeps you on your toes. So you are always being faced with new challenges. I'm also by nature, maybe originally coming from the West Indies, someone who actually likes other people and likes to socialize with people. And so for me, it's just great getting to meet smart, driven, passionate investors and helping them grow in their careers and in their journey. So, thanks.
Great. Yeah, but echo a lot of what's been said so far, but I think what I love most is a job where no 2 days are the same, and I haven't had a single dull day in 6 years, and hopefully that looks the same for the next 10 and 20. But I think for me, like, there's a prospect of becoming an expert that I find really appealing, just knowing that, you can build towards being one of maybe 20 or 30 people in the world who know as much about a single industry as you know, and the competitive streak in me loves the prospect of becoming, an expert over time. So I think that's the piece I love most.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. And just a little bit about me to throw me in the mix. So I am in tech. And so what that means is I kind of am a part of the business technology. So I'm more business facing. So I deal with programming, the data systems that everyone uses. So it's kind of a lot of hands in the pot. I deal with a lot of the different teams. We use different tech for all different types of reasons. So that could be client portfolio managers, it could be finance, it could be accounts, it could be compliance, it could be securities and risk. So I kind of get to see on a day-to-day basis how all of the firm operates, which is really awesome because me coming from a science background, it allowed me to be analytical and be kind of like right in the middle of a happy medium between not really knowing too much about bonds and finance and investment, but being able to learn about it without being completely submerged in it, but also kind of on this other side of helping people out, you know, like Timothy said, I really like to talk to people. So it allowed me to kind of expand my network and also see what other people at the firm do. So I found a happy medium, and that's just kind of my story. So Cynthia, if you could tell us how you came into the finance industry, did you always want to go into finance? Could you kind of walk us through how you ended up being in the field?
Yeah, absolutely. So similar to you, I was in engineering in undergrad. I really liked doing math. I really wanted to be in a technical role, but I also really loved to talk. So I was looking for something that had a little bit of a client component, had a little bit of a technical component. I was very lucky early on, in undergrad to find a pathway through banking. And I think that's in part going to school where a lot of banks are. I won't make any qualms about that, but it was certainly helpful to think about a day in the life when you had a lot of exposure to people who are in the business. So I would say, one, I was able to find really strong mentors who showed me careers where I could find kind of the cross between a technical and client-facing role. And, finance served a lot of those purposes. And I found the dynamicism of doing the job to be really appealing. And that's kind of what kept me interning on the banking side. And I think the kind of kickoff was just, where can I do, like, I have the skills that I know I want to use every day, and where can I use those skills? And banking was the answer to that, at the beginning of my career.
Awesome. Thank you. And Timothy, if I could pose the same question to you, did you always know you were going to be in the finance industry? How did you kind of stumble upon it?
I wanted to be the next Obama. I thought I was going to go into politics. And it's because I wanted a job where I could help people. And politics seemed to be, a really good way of doing that. So in college, I interned for the mayor of Cambridge, who was, I think he was the first, he certainly was the first Black, openly gay mayor that Cambridge had had. And I sort of followed him around as he ran for re-election, and it was brutal. He was always in the press, and his business was not private at all. It was totally out there in the public. And so I quickly decided that the life of a politician was not the one I wanted, but maybe I could be the guy who helped to fund, the campaigns for the politicians. So that switched me to business. I ended up doing a program when I was a junior in college called SEO, which allowed me to intern on Wall Street for a company called Smith Barney at the time. Don't think it exists anymore. Had a wonderful experience there. Decided that I wanted to learn more about business and how businesses worked. And so someone said, oh, then you should go into consulting, because consulting, you learn a lot about business. I did that. I really didn't like this particular type of consulting that I did for my first year out of college. And so I just sent my resume to a headhunter, and I ended up at a firm called Putnam Investments, where much like what Cynthia described, it was a very dynamic environment where you were always learning, and where as a young person, you were given an awful lot of responsibility. And so I loved it. I would run into work. I was so excited to learn about businesses and stocks and business models and how to find alpha. So that's sort of how I fell into the business.
Awesome, thank you. And Justin, I'm going to kick it off with a new question. So, could you kind of tell us what your day is like, what your work culture is at your company, et cetera?
Sure. Darn, I was going to answer the other question. I had all sorts of bullet points.
You can answer that one too.
No, I'm just teasing. But I will say I did accidentally fall into it. I mean, I loved math growing up. I was reasonably good at it. Went to college, studied sociology. That's what I wanted to study. And banks came interviewing where I was at school, and sort of happened. So not everybody has sort of a straight plan necessarily. So that was fortunate for me. But my day, I guess I'll talk about my pre-COVID day, because my COVID day is a little strange with work from home and all that. But in finance, the days can start early. Really depends on where you are. When I began my career, I was at my desk at 7:30, and that was sort of middle. A lot of people were there at 6:30 and 8:30 or something like that. The bond market, not everybody knows, opens up earlier than the stock market. So usually the bond people are there first on average. So our days would begin, somewhere in that early morning. Generally, what I'm doing now is sort of going through my client list, ensuring that there's no open items for all of those clients. New clients, especially, because it's really complicated when you bring a new institution on and they are giving the confidence in your firm for 50 million, 500 million. I mean, it's a different world. And so the level of care has to be pretty serious there. So when you have new clients coming, you're sort of really dotting your I's and crossing your T's on things like, what are the investment guidelines? That is, the parameters for their investment portfolio. Who is their investment consultant that they've been utilizing for their decision? Do they have any particular restrictions in their investment portfolio than a different institution won't have? There's this thing called ESG, and environmental, social, and governance factors. So some client might say, I never want to own an energy bond or stock again in my life. So you have to sort of compartmentalize that. And another might say, you need to sell all your Russia holdings because we hate what they've done. And you have to make flexibility, sort of, in my role at least, pretty prominent. So there's a certain amount of kind of at your computer, at your work papers, ensuring that these things are happening accurately. And then more than half the time, it's sort of team-based. So I'll work with another teammate on a client portfolio. We'll work as a team to sort of figure out what new research we're going to send out to clients that talks about inflation and crazy interest rate scenarios we're in this year. But I will say, and I'm not sure if Timothy and Cynthia will agree, but the asset management world for me in my 30 years doing this, because I started on Wall Street, not at Smith Barney, but similarly, it's a much more civilized world. So, if you want to work Monday through Friday, 8 to 6, this is the finance world for you. You can work a lot more, probably work a little less, but this is I think a place where it's sort of the intellectual stimulus and conversation, high level sort of discussions. To Timothy's point about doing good, I think about that all the time, because my clients ultimately are the pensioners, are the students at the schools where we're investing their endowment. It's a pretty civilized place to be, with a lot of kind of interesting intellectual curiosity, and that sort of happens every day. And yeah, I eat lunch and all those other things. If I can sneak in a workout, I'll do that too. So.
Thank you, Justin. And I will talk about me as an intern and kind of what my day looks like. So because of COVID and everything, I go into work sometimes. So right now I'm just doing Tuesdays and Thursdays. I might do a Wednesday, depending on if my team is in the office or not. My work culture I was very surprised. It wasn't what I thought. Everyone is very nice, very personable. And there are other interns like myself that I met that are from all over, which is really nice getting to know them. We're all on different teams within the firm. And you might have a project, you might have other little tasks, things to do. And I also like that it's not always, you don't always dress professionally. So sometimes you might have a professional dress day when a client comes in or when we need to present, okay, this is the firm, this is what these people do, etc. Other days it might be what's called a business casual day where everybody's just kind of working, doing their own thing. I really love that in my office, we have flex spaces. So I have my own desk where my team sits, where I normally do my work. But say I want like a larger monitor, or I want like a quiet room, or I want to reserve an office space, like a boardroom that they have, I can do that as well. So you have a lot of flexibility and freedoms at these companies, just to kind of give you an idea of what your day would look like. Boston is really walkable. I don't know if you guys have heard that in this series, but it's really walkable. Everywhere is pretty convenient. I work in the financial district, so it's kind of right here. We stay at Northeastern. And my day is kind of like getting on the subway. I kind of wake up at like 8:30-ish. So I kind of do a 8:30 to 5, nothing crazy. And most of the times they're pretty flexible with you. So if you say like, hey, this is kind of what I'm comfortable with, most of the time they'll kind of work with you to navigate like, okay, do you have school going on? Are you taking summer classes? Things like that. So I've really liked it this far. And I'm going to move on to the next question so I don't end up blabbering this whole time. But so our next question is, could you specifically tell us what your companies do? For instance, what are the goals, the purpose? For example, I work at a bond firm, which is fixed income. Other firms do different things. So could we kick it off with Timothy?
Sure, thanks, Olivia. So Fidelity Investments, we are a very large money manager. We have both fixed income and equity. We have private equity. There really isn't any type of investment that exists out there that we don't do. We just launched a big crypto business. But that's just a small part of what Fidelity does overall. We also manage the assets of large institutions. We manage the assets for individuals, or what we call retail. We have a large consulting business. We have a large real estate business. So we're really an investment company. I think overall, our core mandate is to help people save for their futures. Your parents or you on the screen today, you have goals that you would like to accomplish. In order to do that, you need to have savings and investments that will allow you to reach those goals, to fund those liabilities. And so working with a company like Fidelity, we allow you to invest that money so that you can further and reach those goals. Very quickly, we are 60,000 employees. We're pretty much number one or number two in most of the businesses that we indulge in. Our CEO is a woman named Abby Johnson. A lot of people also don't know that our CFO is also a woman of Latin descent. And we're a family-owned business, which it's pretty hard to find a family-owned business of our scale. I'll leave it there. Thanks.
Cynthia, I'll pose the question again. So tell me what your company specifically does and goals and purposes.
Sure. So I'll talk about what I did before school, which is I worked for a long-short equity fund. So we only invest in public markets. Long means you're buying a stock, hoping it goes up. Short means you're taking a bet that the stock goes down. And the aim to that is that we're trying to hedge out certain idiosyncratic risks or related risks between two different companies. But the aim is, the same, as any money manager, is to generate returns. We're active managers, so our personal goal is to beat the S&P over a long period of time. And we manage money mostly for endowments, pensions, although most hedge funds typically also manage money for high net worth individuals.
Awesome, thank you. And Justin, what are your company's goals and purposes?
I think the way that they've both phrased this is pretty accurate. I mean, we don't have a so-called retail business. We work with these institutions, and then the financial advisors that you or I, or you, in your future, you could hire to handle your own personal money, and let those financial advisors decide. So I guess our purpose is a bit more about stability, because bonds, except for this year, are more stable than stocks. If you don't know, interest rates have risen pretty sharply this year because of fears of inflation. And that is the death knell, not the death knell, but a real negative for bonds and bond pricing. And if you want to talk about discounted cash flow, meet me after this call and we'll talk about it. Our purpose is to really ensure we're getting, proper, what we call risk-adjusted returns. And that is, we want to provide strong performance, alpha, which would be outperformance over a benchmark, but not do it without not doing it with excessive risk. So ensuring that we're only taking appropriate risks for these clients. No surprises, I think, is important. When you get hired in our business, deliver what you should. Maybe it's not the best all the time, but sort of be clear about what it is that you're providing. And then culturally, we're a private company owned by a woman, led by a lot of women at the firm, and it's a sort of a family culture. And I know Fidelity is as well, and I'm sure Adage is too. So that's, I think, an important component of who we are.
Awesome, thank you guys. So the next question is more fun, and I'm gonna kick it off with Cynthia. So are you a Boston native? What brought you to Boston? Sorry, if you're not originally from here.
Yeah, so I am originally from New Jersey. So I moved here right after the Eagles beat the Patriots. If anyone's curious, just keep that in mind. But I moved here for work, and it's been a great experience. I mean, I love living in Boston. Happy to give it another 2 years at Harvard. And spectacular place to live and work so far. And a lot of titles so far as well. So good place to be.
Okay, Justin, what about you?
Well, I did live in Philadelphia for a long time, and I rooted for those teams as long as I could. And other than Cynthia, their fans are a little tough. But now I live here in Boston, just outside. And I didn't have any, actually, my oldest son was born in Bryn Mawr, Pennsylvania. We lived there for about 6 months, and then we moved up here for a job. I mean, I was recruited to work for Wellington Management from my job in Philadelphia. And I haven't looked back. I mean, I've lived in Chicago. Anybody from Chicago? Grew up in the North Shore there, Cubs fan. Lived in California. This behind me is a small town called Capitola, which is where I learned to play volleyball near Santa Cruz County up north. Sort of whipped around in Pennsylvania and New York for a flash, and then Boston, A, because of the job, and B, because of my wife. And whatever your wife wants, you sort of follow through, generally speaking. But now I'm a huge Patriots fan. I'm a huge Red Sox fan, and a huge Celtics fan. And I know it was a very difficult end, but a pretty amazing year. So I do love it here. I've lived all over the country, and I want to be here for as long as it'll have me.
Timothy?
Yeah, I moved to Boston when I was 7 years old from Barbados, as I mentioned. So very much consider Boston to be my home. Huge, everything Boston fan, as Justin said, when it comes to the sports teams. I'll ignore your comment, Cynthia. I've already forgotten about that Eagles game. Yeah, look, I may have said this to Cynthia. One of the toughest things I've found as an investment professional who grew up in Boston, both personally and my career, was convincing other people of color who were not from Boston to stick around, to stay in Boston and to make a life of it. Boston at its surface can initially be a tough and confusing place for people of color to find their way. So that's been one of my personal goals, to try to help people figure it out. Once you do, you'll find that there's a rich and robust community here that's very diverse. And you'll find that there's a great support network too in the financial services industry in particular. Great place to grow up, great place to raise a family, great place to live.
And I can echo kind of off of that, talking from the intern standpoint. So I was in you guys' shoes last summer. And coming here, I have really fallen in love with the city of Boston itself. So like I mentioned, I'm from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I live in New Orleans most of the time for the year because I go to Xavier. But Boston has exceeded my expectations. I think that I knew I was going to like it. But one thing I love about how the Lighted Pathways program is formatted is when you first get here, they give you group activities so that you can meet the other students who you're going to be living with, interacting with, and doing things with. But they try to really give us free time and the freedom to, I see somebody in the chat for Baton Rouge, but they really try to give you the freedom to move about the city how you want to. So I've gone kayaking, I've gone to festivals, I've gone to events, gone to the MFA. So you really get to see the city on your own and test it out and see if you really want to live here. I learned the subway, and we have a saying like within our group that it's like, you're not really getting lost because you kind of still are, exploring the city. So it's kind of like wherever it takes you sometimes. And so it's been really fun. I honestly, to the point where I think I might end up moving to Boston after school, which is crazy because I never thought I would be saying that. And also to the point where I think I might want to go definitely in the business route, which is, crazy because I am a biology major, but I think it's just all about, if you guys get here, when you get here, definitely take advantage of everybody that's around you. All of these people that you see on this Zoom or that are behind the scenes making all of this work have definitely wrapped their arms around all of the students here. And they're really, really phenomenal people if you take the time to really connect with them, explain to them that you want to be here and that you want to take this opportunity. It's been the networking opportunity of a lifetime for me. I've met so many great mentors and coaches that really want to help me and see me succeed in whatever I do, whether I do choose asset management personally or if I don't. So I'd say just take advantage of all of the training, even for the interviews. Once you get there, you can always use interviewing skills and techniques with any job that you're trying to go up for. All of this advice is very applicable to any professional field. So I'd say, yeah, Boston can be for you. It really can be. I'm saying that as a Black woman, as a woman in general, but this city definitely surprised me culturally, personally, and I really like it. So I don't want to talk up, take up too much time talking. Those were all the questions, but I definitely want to give it back to Troy so that you guys can have the opportunity to ask the panelists questions or me questions about everything today. And thank you, panelists, for being with us today. It was awesome. And thank you for letting me moderate.
Wow, everybody, let's give a hand clap. Wow, that Olivia is a gem. I can't believe it that we have her. Thank you all so much. You gave such great insight. Timothy and Justin, and of course you, Cynthia, thank you so much. You all are always adding such great value to this program. So we have just a few minutes. We're going to be breaking you out into breakout sessions to have more intimate conversations with some of your coaches, so that you can ask some questions that you may not be comfortable asking in a larger sense. So if you could, if we'll give you a couple of minutes, maybe 1 or 2 questions for the panelists. If you have it, go ahead and just write it down in the chat, or if you have it ready, you can come off of mute really quickly. Again, we just want to keep it to about 1 to 2 questions. Any questions for our panelists or Olivia? This is your time. If you don't feel comfortable now, that's okay. We'll go ahead and break you out in your sessions, and you can always ask the questions there. And Olivia has put her name inside of the chat in case you want to link up with her on LinkedIn. And also, we can definitely try to get some LinkedIn information out. All right, Rufus, it looks like you have a question. You can come on off of mute and ask your question.
First off, I want to thank you guys, for spending some of your time with us today. My name is Rufus Williams, class of 2025, Morehouse, Business Administration, concentration in finance. And my question was for Olivia, because you said you're a Lighted Pathway Scholar this year. My question was, how did you get, acclimated to, the Boston environment as soon as you got there? Because I know, me being from LA, I've never been, to Massachusetts. I've never been that far, and only for college, and that's in Atlanta. And how did you, get used to the environment?
Oh, great question. So I'm from the South, so I'm very personable, very extroverted. When I first got here, it was cold. So back home, it's like 104. When I got here I got here like May 31st. And the first question I remember asking everybody, like, how's the weather? Like, is it cold? Is it not cold? I think when I got here, it was still like in the 50s, like 55, 58. It was freezing. So that definitely took a minute. Their summer definitely doesn't start until like right now. I'd say it's like warm. It might be like, 80 degrees or so outside. What else took a little minute to get used to? The subway was interesting, but they took us around to figure all of that out. So they don't like leave you to navigate it by yourself. We went in a group the first time. We're like, okay, go in this direction, go in that direction. It's kind of like you have to do it and then you learn as you go type thing. You just kind of got to get on and then get a little lost. What else has been cool? I guess I kind of got acclimated just talking to people. I think I just kind of had to figure out how I was going to navigate just kind of as a young adult. But I will say what helps is knowing the cohort. So I have it's really 45 of us. We have a half life sciences and half asset management. But our 22 that are asset management, we're super close. We always go places with each other, and we've built a bond because we're going to be here for such a long time. So I definitely say get to know your cohort people, because those are the people you're going to be living with, doing stuff with, going places with. And I think that's one of the beauties of this internship is you're not doing any of this by yourself. So I just say you're going to be fine. There are people here, you got your cohorts, you got your friends, make friends and things like that. I didn't have to really bring much, just kind of clothes. I think I had 3 suitcases, which was a lot, but as far as like acclimating, we stay at Northeastern, so I'm in like a apartment style, which is nice because you're comfortable. You can cook. You have your own like personal room to yourself. Have a living room. Northeastern's campus is really, really nice. Has all the amenities that you want. We have gym access, pool, cafeteria, stuff like that. So it's really easy to acclimate, I'd say.
Thank you,
Awesome.
Dr.
Thank you so much. So I know, Zion, you have a question. I'm so sorry. We want to be able to get you into your breakout rooms. You can always ask them later on. I'm so sorry, but we want to make sure that we keep everyone's time into consideration. So again, thank you so much, panelists. We will definitely find a way to make sure that we can have our students keep connected with you. And this is recorded, so it'll go out to them to be able to come back and reflect on anything that you share with us. So at this time, we're going to go ahead and send you all out into your breakout rooms, and you'll be in the breakout room for about 15 minutes. Make sure that you keep your eyes open for that clock. I know the conversations are probably going to be booming. I'm hoping so. And then we'll let you back in for some next steps with your program, and we'll go ahead and let you go now. Thank you so much, guys. We're just getting them in their rooms. Okay. They'll be informed. They'll be informed within a couple of seconds when everything is there, when it's time to switch back.
So I am this is like the person who has to speak before lunch.
They're like, all right, right.
Okay, I'll try to be super concise, quick, and engaging.
Awesome. And also, if you want to take this opportunity to remind them that, you know, those what was it, the resumes, right? That there weren't enough of.
Yeah, we're good now.
Okay.
Yep, we're good.
Awesome. Yes, it's about Michael Johnson. I don't know who that is. Hello, Michael. How are you? Our students are currently in a breakout session, but they're about to come back in for the final half of the program, okay? So just bear with us for a little bit.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. I don't know. I was when I logged on at 5, I mentioned that I was at work and I just recently got back. So I just like network issues and everything, just switched to my laptop. So
Okay, no worries.
more engaged. Yeah.
No worries. We're going to go ahead and bring the students back anyway, okay? Hold on for me.
Okay, thank you so much.
Mhm. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. I hope that you had, welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. Welcome back. I hope that you had a great discussion. I know when we get into those discussions here at UNCF, it almost seems like it's never enough time. I hope that you all had enough time to ask any questions that you may have, or really get into the deep about asset management and where you fit in there. So I am just going to give it over to our colleague and co-lead in this program, Ms. Jamise Carroll. She's going to talk to you about the next steps in the program. So everybody listen up. This is directly to you. Hold on for me. I'm going to open up screen and hold on for me. Sorry, 1 second. Oh, of course, it's going to do that to me. Hold on. Janice, give me 1 second. Oh, wow. Let's do this last time. So. Oh, there we go. All right, Janice, take it away. Sorry about that.
All right. So I was just jokingly telling Troy that I am kind of the place where I'm between you and maybe your dinner and or lunch if we were at, an in-person meeting. So I am going to do my best to be short, concise, and engage you all with enthusiasm about what is happening next. So congratulations, you have made it through our summer series, professional development series. We hope that you have enjoyed the content that you have been provided. And just a plug of a reminder, we will have all the sessions available, the recordings in the Schoology platform. So if you ever wanted to go back and review and replay a session from this June summer series, you are able to do so. So what happens next? So now we are at the phase in the program where you will be matched with a coach. And this is one of the most exciting, there's many exciting components of the programming, but this one we get really excited about because we have professionals who have dedicated and volunteered their time to really help mentor you, to coach you through preparing you for the interview phase. So coaches and students will be introduced via email to begin their coaching sessions. So it'll be really important for you all to be alert to your email. We will start that introduction. So you'll have your coach's email and they'll have your email, and then you all will then begin to develop a plan around when you all will meet. You and your coaches should begin to meet starting right within this range, July 5th through August 10th. And you need to complete 3 meetings with your coach, right, at minimum. So we've asked coaches to spend 30 minutes to an hour with each of you. Those meetings that will take place happen in this sequential order. So the first meeting will be building rapport and talking about your resume. So we will provide your coach with your resume. And this is a great opportunity to, get that constructive feedback and to ask questions. We know that resumes can be a little tricky. They can be very subjective depending on who's looking at your resume, but use this as an opportunity, again, to ask those questions, enhance, make changes and revisions to your resume. The second meeting you will spend with your coach doing some mock interview practicing. So we all know that practice makes perfect. And the more times that you hear those questions, such as tell me about yourself, or, why are you interested in the Lighted Pathways program, it will be secondhand nature to you, right? Your answers, your responses will just kind of flow. And so we want you all to get to a point where interviewing really just becomes natural and feels like you're having a conversation. Your third meeting really is a culmination of the first 2. And that's where you'll get final feedback from your coach. So again, this process really requires you, in this coaching phase, to be responsive in your emails to your coach, to make sure that, you are on time for your coaching sessions. So please be mindful of that, utilizing your calendar to schedule, to make sure that you're on time. I know sometimes we can all get tripped up with the different time zones. So make sure, right, that you're aware of how that might play out. Many of our coaches are on the Eastern time zone. Coaches will submit feedback to us about, right, how you showed up in your coaching session. So it's really important for us to, one, know that you were present, that you were engaged, that you came to your coaching sessions prepared. And we really utilize this to evaluate, right, your preparedness and your readiness level to go to the interview phase. So this portion, you know, in addition to, right, the rest of the program components and structure, we really hold you all to a high standard. And this is really about, again, helping you all be standout, viable, strong candidates in the Lighted Pathways program and internship pool. So again, take this very seriously, be mindful of our coaches' time that they have dedicated to spend with you. And again, soak up and ask all the questions that you have. Be curious, you know, be you know, just engaged in this part of the programming. So that is all that I have. Again, this will all be initiated via email. So just be on that lookout. I will use the urgent exclamation point so that you know that it is an important email that we want you to open and read. So get ready as you enter into the coaching phase.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, I don't know if anyone has any questions for Miss Carol or anything like that. If you do, please do so in the chat, or you can always email her on her, you know, her professional email at UNCF. I'll go ahead and put it in the chat. It looks like we have one question from London Kemp. London, you can come off of mute to ask Ms. Jamise any questions.
Hi, thank you. I just wanted to ask, so for the for all the feedback for our resumes on Schoology, if we have like questions about that, can we email you to get like more clarification and stuff?
Sure, yeah. You can either, whether you message me on Schoology or email, I'll be happy to respond.
Awesome, thank you so much.
All right, it looks like we have a question from Jennifer. For the internship matching process, will we get to interview with a select few companies, then choose based on which companies extend offers, or will we be placed by the Lighted Pathways staff based on what you all see? You all see what's best.
That's a really, really good question, Jennifer. So you will be placed by us, and we'll look at a few different things. So we take into consideration your background. We look and review the feedback from your coach. And then, right, we make our best judgment against the internship opportunities. I will say that we're pretty accurate in those efforts. Most of our students that place this year are all at places that they are enjoying and excited to be at. So I would say our science of matching students with interviews is pretty head on.
Awesome. Any other questions that you may have for Ms. Jamise? Of course, if you don't feel comfortable sharing it or asking it in front of everyone, you have her email address. I'll put it again inside of the chat. But if you have any questions now, it would be the best time to do that so that you can get a real